Dan Who is a dirty, dirty liar. Let's talk about it. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Strong Collectors Podcast. I'm your host, Dakota, here with my co host, Jordan. And today we are talking our favorite segment, two guys talking about Marvel Legends. And now, here at the Strong Collectors, we may be your favorite podcast, and we probably are, but we're not quite at that level where Hasbro is handing out their interviews to us left and right. So we like to leech off of some of the bigger fish in the pond. But we're going to take the interview that Dan Who got to do with Dwight over at MCM, and we're going to maybe pull some of those pieces and expand on some of the ideas that they talked about. So, when you're doing those interviews with the Hasbro team, they sometimes have to be a little more tight-lipped. And there's just some things that you don't bring up because you're not going to get the answers. But here on the Strong Collectors, we can speculate and imagine and let our ideas just run amok. So
Exactly.
we're going to go through kind of what they talked about and go maybe in more detail, maybe not complete accurate detail, but we talked about in the very beginning. You heard me say Dan Who is a dirty, dirty liar. So we'll get to that eventually. But before we do, they brought up the Red Hulk, the Falcon, and the Captain America Sam Wilson figure that they just announced there at MCM. This was sort of leaked from Rectangular. We knew there was going to be a Brave New World wave. There wasn't any figures in that wave, a part of the leak, but this was, I guess they discussed that this was, I think, essentially the wave in its entirety is these three figures rather than doing the Build-A-Figure wave, which I think is probably a good idea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on the movie, but it might be one of those ones where you're kind of getting the greatest hits with those three, I imagine. I mean, you could probably have tertiary characters, but I feel like usually those end up being like the Everett Rosses that are just floating target.
Right.
So I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And the idea of them saying you just get the whole wings, it's not the
right.
As much as I got by that Build-A-Figure Falcon wing gimmick. I understand why they're doing it that way. It makes sense.
And yeah, while I agree that the Build-A-Wing model wasn't my favorite, I think that figure, that, I don't know, Build-A-Figure is in both of our never sell piles. Like for me, I'll never get rid of it, but I think
That's
you're
true.
kind of in that same boat. So as much as we're not a fan, we are still big fans. Anyway, next up, they were talking about how this past year, we really haven't seen too much of the MCU characters, but Dwight was saying, MCU fans, just chill out. There's more coming. There wasn't much MCU happening this past year, but there's going to be more happening next year. So I think we can pretty safely expect to see, Fantastic Four figures. There was already the leak for Thunderbolt figures. So we probably will be seeing those in the near future. And I think depending on
folks,
how this...
What Dakota's saying is it's time to sell your Red Guardians that you've been stocking up.
Right. Yes, he's at an all-time high.
Did you see that meme of it was like Marvel Studios made a movie of all the Marvel Legends they can sell?
I did. I thought that was pretty funny.
That's pretty good.
I know Dan Who has kind of been saying he's expecting the Thunderbolts, because it's Thunderbolts with an asterisk, that it's going to switch titles to be Dark Avengers. To me, I feel like I would almost just rather them stick with Thunderbolts for now, and then the next movie they do is Dark Avengers or something, just because the hype is already probably as high as it's going to be, and I don't want it to be wasted. I don't want the Dark Avengers name to be wasted on a movie like this, if that makes sense.
Like you want the straight up supervillain Dark Avengers thing.
Right. Or even if this is what Dark Avengers, if this is the team that will be the Dark Avengers, I just feel like switching the name is not going to change the hype or the level of excitement or how good this movie is going to be. I still expect it to be kind of a lower tier Marvel project. So just keep it Thunderbolts and then make a Dark Avengers movie. But
that's fair.
Back to toys. They brought up the Sentinel, which you can go back and watch our speculation on whether you should buy multiple of these. But Dwight had mentioned that before they got to the final idea of doing a X-Men 97 Sentinel, they had kicked
Mhm.
around the idea of 8 to 10 concepts of larger
Yeah.
figures. So I'm smelling another episode, Jordan, where we do some
Oh,
more speculating on this. That's just some more sweet content, baby.
yeah. You gotta stay tuned for that, folks.
Right. So I
But yeah, I'm sure
and
there's plenty that they
along
could
with that,
that was interesting.
he had said that to get to the X-Men 97 as their, final figure that they chose, they had done fan testing. Now I want to know how and
Mm.
where do I need to be a part of this fan testing? Because that just sounds fun to
Mhm.
be like, hey, here's 8 to 10 giant action figure ideas. Which one is cool? Just because I want to know what they all
Mm.
were.
Yeah.
So,
How do we get in that focus group?
mhm. um, Dan, again, he had mentioned this, I think the last time, I think he was talking to Dan, but he brought it up
Mhm.
again with Dwight that we need a Blue Beast on the X-Men 97 card because
Yeah.
out of all the different card backs, so the VHS, the retro card, the Build-A-Figure waves, and now X-Men 97 card, they have never completed the full roster of X-Men as far as like
Mhm.
the animated team goes. So Dwight, he said it was a fair fact to be brought
Fair
up.
ask. Yeah.
Right. And he was even kind of saying that at least the thing that came to his mind was they had never done a retro carded tiger striped Wolverine. So that kind of makes me think, maybe if that's in the front of his brain, maybe we've got a retro tiger stripe coming soon. Not really sure how
Mhm.
that would look. I could see maybe a first appearance tiger striped Wolverine would be kind of cool. Dan brought up the idea that we get so many of the super articulated female bodies. We've got, the Vulcan body, lots of different pinless options, but yet we still get some figures that come, maybe some females that are single jointed, maybe some figures still on the older pinned bodies. But and this has been brought up probably several times, but just to reiterate to the fans that haven't heard it or
Mhm.
don't understand why they still do that, um, Dwight was saying that while yes, they do have a lot of those newer, articulated, better options for bodies, there's only so much room on the production line for those.
Mhm.
So if we want to continue getting the amount of Marvel Legends that we currently get, and I don't remember how much we got last year. You'd have to go back and watch that video, but it's a significant amount of figures. In order to do that, and in order to get some of those like DC list characters, they have to use some of those older bodies, and I think that's I don't know. For me, that's fine because, like I said, when you get into those D list characters, I don't really need my Frogmans to be on the same level of articulation or newness as
Mhm.
maybe say you're like Renew Your Vows Spider-Man's, even though I think
Right.
we've talked about how good Frogman is, so maybe
I was
he's a
gonna
bad
say
example,
I'm
but
not gonna stand for any frogman slander here, Dakota. But no,
Right.
I get what you're saying. I mean, like a the Tlia, even. I'm not
Sure.
like yeah, it's okay, she's cool, but I don't need like you to put a whole ton of engineering into that figure. So
Right.
I think that makes sense, and I think we've talked a lot about that before. It's like there's certain constraints they they have to work with, and that's just how it
Mhm.
is. Like in their perfect world, I'm sure they'd say we want to make every figure we make super articulated and like the best version, but that's
Mhm.
just not the reality if you want to keep getting the figures that you do want to have that. So I thought that was
Right.
a cool conversation, and that was kind of when he talked about listening to fan feedback, right?
Mhm.
I thought that was pretty interesting. Of like, you're not just screaming into the void. You might be, but there are times where we do hear it, and you kind of catch things that we don't, or you give us feedback that lets us retool stuff or make
Mhm.
adjustments, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah. While they may not always be able to, you know, answer us directly or immediately, they're hearing,
Hmm.
but it's a bigger company, corporation. They have to go through the proper chain of command, all those things to be able
Hmm.
to address the questions and concerns that the fans have.
Yeah.
Um, Dan was asking kind of along the lines of all the new bodies and stuff getting Elektra and Psylocke on. I'm assuming he was talking about the Black Widow body.
Hmm.
But Ryan was saying, or not Ryan, Dwight was saying, maybe keep an eye out because there may be something newer or at least different. He didn't really say better, but just
Hmm.
something along the lines, but not exactly the same as that Black Widow body, but
Hmm.
sounded like something we haven't seen before, which I would be pretty excited because I've been wanting a new Elektra for quite a while. I know a lot of people have been wanting a new Psylocke because she hasn't been out since. I guess they just did the 3-pack, but like in the blue costume.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, we haven't seen her since the Apocalypse wave, I don't think. So maybe some new female bodies coming soon. Dan also was asking about kind of with the articulation and things like that, probably going off of the pinless idea and the toe joints. Do Marvel Legends take any particular engineering from other companies? So for this, I was kind of thinking like, what piece of engineering would you like Dwight to sit down and see and bring to the Marvel Legends line? Do you have anything in mind? Diapers. So you want to bring the McFarlane diapers?
Maybe some ball hinge ankles and wrists.
Okay,
No,
that
just
would
kidding.
be a
I'll give
big step
McFarlane a
back.
compliment too with the wired cape. I will
Yes.
give that positive compliment there. I gotta always make fun of the diapers though.
Mhm.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Yeah, they didn't get into the specifics of that, but I mean,
Mhm.
I think there are some elements of even McFarlane that would be cool to see incorporated in some ways.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking the same thing with getting wired capes because Marvel is starting to do some of the soft goods. I would expect it's not going to be too long until we see a Gambit in a soft goods brown jacket. I just would hope that by the time we see that, they've been putting wires in those cape or in the coats because like the Beast Lab coat, while it looks okay, I just don't think it's going to hold up the same way as even McFarlane has made leaps and bounds in his soft goods capes that he's been doing, because those started out looking pretty like junky, like Lego capes. And now they're pretty nice. Maybe not quite at the level of Mafex, but closer than they were.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
They're pretty good.
Yeah. I don't know. I would like to know from the fans, like, what else would you like to see added to the Marvel Legends engineering options? Because that's kind of the main one I was thinking. Otherwise, I really do think Marvel Legends is doing a fantastic job. I just maybe if you could make Marvel Legends as smooth as Mafex's, because I'm always blown away by how smooth the joints are, but yet they still hold their positions. So maybe that's something, but either way, I'm still happy with Marvel Legends overall.
Dwight also talked about his mystery figure, Dakota, and we've gotten some hints at this before, but just more information on that it is one of his favorites? Was it this year or in the past few years, right? That he said?
Past few, yeah.
Okay, so he said a favorite, and then he said it wasn't quite an A tier character, but it's not a Q tier. So relatively well known. It's not going to be super obscure, which gives us a little bit more to speculate on. Stay tuned for that.
Yeah, I don't have any idea what it could be, honestly. But I'm very excited to see it. He's built up a good amount of hype for it.
Right. Yeah. That could be like a detective episode. We take all our evidence and see what it could be.
I like it.
So I'm excited to see what that turns out.
Yeah, I just hope it's substantial. I would expect lots of new tooling on it. I mean, I think the Void was pretty crazy. Frankencastle would be cool.
Wouldn't that be wild if you made Frankencastle, Dwight? I mean, geez, that's crazy, dude. But maybe.
I mean, I think I don't think Frankencastle would warrant the amount of hype that he's building, but I think the bad guy from Frankencastle, I think that could warrant this amount of hype.
Oh, I always forget his name, Hellsguard or whatever.
Yes.
I would love that guy.
So,
he'd be great.
leave some comments down below because I want to know what you guys are thinking it is. What mid-level popularity, I would assume, character is this going to be? Because I haven't really seen a lot of guesses to it. I could see a new Nemesis.
Did he say it was a Build-A-Figure?
Yeah, he did say it was. Okay. He did say it was a Build-A-Figure.
Okay, I thought so.
Whatever it is, I hope it's in a cool wave that I want those figures.
Ooh,
so that it's not like the Black Heart where I didn't really need the figures, but I do really want the Build-A-Figure.
Right.
We'll see. Now we get to the part where Dan is a dirty, dirty liar. He was talking about how he has, I don't know, made several videos, live streams, standalone YouTube episodes saying that Mephisto is coming. He followed the breadcrumbs of Dan and Ryan, and he came to the conclusion that Mephisto was coming, and it was actually the Sentinel was the figure that we're getting a second chance at. Dwight did say that there is a chance that we still get a Mephisto. And I thought it was kind of interesting. He was saying that almost everything in the Marvel lore is fair game. but there are rules and guidelines to how they would approach some of those characters. And I assume that like Mephisto falls within that character category of, you know, you can't put the devil out on Walmart shelves, but he could be a part of a HasLab. HasLab didn't work out, so now maybe he'll be a part of a fan channel exclusive or something like that.
Or I don't know if we know what to call them, these made to orders. What about that?
Oh, maybe be the next after the
And
Sentinel
beef
ends.
him up a little bit, give him that throne. Bada boom, bada bing.
I mean, I think at this point, if they don't give him a throne, that'll get people like. There's always going to be those people that are like, "Oh, I wanted this, but if it came with a throne, I would have bought it." But you just get your 3D sculpted thrones, and it'd be all right. But I really don't care about Mephisto at all. That's one that, I mean, I would recommend Hasbro team if you've been considering the strong collectors for a brand new reveal. Maybe don't give me Mephisto, or give me Mephisto. It'd be funny. Give us the Frankencastle to reveal. That'd be a good one.
There we go.
Next, they talked about Giant Man's eyes. Now, Jordan, you have your Giant Man in town. FedEx is holding it. You got to go pick him up.
Currently being held captive by FedEx, so I'm going to go release him imminently. Yes.
Okay. When you do open them up, you're going to have to check the eyes. A lot of folks have been seeing that they get double side eyes, and the team is aware of it. And it sounds like working to get straight on neutral eyes printed and get those out to the fans. Because I've seen pictures in the Facebook group of people getting like fully side eyes and then partial side eyes. So it just seems like it was a misfire on the printing there. So it's good that they're aware of it and they're fixing it, because I do feel much more confident that folks are going to get their straight on eyes more so than when we talked to McFarlane and he was saying to call QC and tell them that you need new arms.
Year 2 Batmans.
Right, new arms for your year 2 Batman.
Yeah,
that was never going to happen, but I do think that folks are going to get their eyes that they need for their HasLab. Which, to be fair, that was a $50 Batman. This is a $200 Giant Man. You should have a little more customer service on the more expensive thing, but still would have been nice to have arms that worked on Batman. And last up, kind of just a fun question for us to think about. It's been asked on Dan's channel several times, but he asked Dwight who he would nominate to be a part of the Who crew. And I was curious what you would nominate, Jordan, because right now he's got Hellfire Hank, he's got Tigra, Captain Britain, and Frogman. Sometimes Jocasta is there, but she may have been broke down or something. Maybe she's out of the picture now. I can't remember. White Tiger used to be in the team. What would be your, it can't be an A-list tier character.
I mean, my first instinct is VHS Aunt May.
Okay, I like that. That's a good one.
Some variety to the crew,
Yeah, I think that's probably one of my favorite answers there.
What would you pick?
I'm thinking maybe I would put in Ursa Major. It's kind of a bigger character that all the other figures are standard, but I just think Ursa Major kind of standing over them with the giant growly face could be. It'd be a little funny to me. So my vote's for Ursa Major.
It's supposed to be a Hasbro.
Yes.
Well, I guess could we go? How far back can we go then? That's the question.
You want to go like Dark Days of Hasbro?
I mean, he's not obscure, but I'd love that Ultimate Wolverine, baby.
Okay. Yeah.
In all his glory.
That is an ugly figure. I could see you loving to see Zorn with his helmet off.
His little pea head.
Right.
Hey guys. Oh my gosh.
That's fun. I like it.
That's good.
So that is everything that they talked about. Make sure you go back and watch the original video, and then you'll hopefully watch it before this, so this makes a little bit more sense. But thank you for watching this
breakdown. You can go watch that and then come back and watch this again, and it'll make even more sense.
Right. Make sure you're liking, sharing, and subscribing. And until next time, stay strong.
Sorry,
just a couple of leeches, Jordan.
Get a little too goofy, but I mean, I'm just ready to sell my body.
What?